Hey there, it's time for your June vlog. Happy Pride. Today I'm going to do my spotlight before the topic, but trust me, there's a reason for this. Today I want to talk about Eric Dittmore's very young game, Secret Secrets. In Secret Secrets, you play as these school-age kids who are trying to become the most popular kid at school by kind of controlling secrets and gossiping about each other. And the iteration that I had played was heavily inspired by Matilda Simonson's Pax Penning game, specifically its coalition mechanic. If you don't know, in that game you form coalitions. You can form coalitions with other players with these like stones that are color-coded to match with the different players. If a player would win, then another player could sort of steal their victory if they have more of that player's stones than they do in their like personal secret supply. But then somebody could steal their victory if somebody else has more of that player's stones than their own. And if you form like a circle of this, like a loop, then all of the players in that loop win together in like a coalition. So Secret Secrets is pretty much using this mechanic, except the secrets are like tied to different kids. These keys are really jangly. And so the secrets are tied to the different players, and you're kind of passing them around. You're using them both as fuel for your actions, but you're also collecting them. So yeah, it's attempting to focus very much in on this particular mechanic, and the game that I played was so much fun. There was so much drama. Like, I got to a point where I was like, I got a lot of secrets. I'm heavily invested in these two kids. I think if we work together, we could somehow all win together. And near the end, I was having like a moment where I was being tempted, or like I had secrets for like these two other players, right? Like Andy and Eric. And I could have like cut Andy out of the loop to secure Eric in my victory. But that felt really bad when Andy had been working so well with us. How it was like a moment of being like, I could cut out Andy, we're so close. No, we're gonna win this together or not at all. So I don't know, I thought that was really cool. But that was the iteration that I played it. But like I mentioned earlier, this is a very young design. And at the recent Pro Spiel it was at, like, this was my favorite game of the event. And I want to like be clear that I really loved this game. But even so, I saw like some things that I felt like could be cleaner, some interactions that could be tightened a bit, as you would expect in a young design. But like, the thing is, apparently my playtest was like the odd duck out. The other playtest at Pro Spiel, it kind of bombed, and later Eric kind of attributed this to me, like having experience with multi-victor games and kind of seeing like the potential in the system and creating the drama that made that game so compelling, negotiating with the other players and having these moments where like somebody could get cut out. We had to trust each other. That was only possible because somebody who was familiar with multi-victor like gameplay saw those elements and played them up. But like, without somebody who was really driving that aspect of the design, the kind of competitive or traditional gameplay didn't quite hold up on its own. So this is something. This brings us around to the topic that I want to discuss for today, which is accounting for different like play styles and how that will impact your game's experience. This is something I noticed with Secret Secrets, but it's also something that I noticed Taylor Schuss had brought up in a thread on Blue Sky. Sometimes having someone who's like very experienced with multi-vector games will create a completely divergent playtest experience. You might suddenly have like a new font of drama and engaging table talk, or maybe like all the tension deflates from your game as the table kind of group hugs the obstacles away. And I think what we're seeing is relevant for all games to some extent. But in competitive games, it's easily dismissed as somebody just playing the game wrong. But in multi-victor game, it really stands out as like wow, this game went kind of the way expected, and this game went completely off the rails, and it's all because of this like one player playing a different like rules abiding way. So generally, I think an important part of effective playtesting is making sure you have like a solid variety in your playtesters. Like beyond different people, you need to have like different groups and different cultures that are involved in like your testing, because to explain, like for me this is a big challenge because I do a lot of my playtesting online in digital online playtesting, and I end up testing in a lot of like similar circles, and they've started catching it, and like there's a lot of people who are familiar with multi-victor design in those circles. So when I have an opportunity to take my game to a convention where there's like some non-designer playtesters relevant and there's that kind of foot traffic, those are by far the most incredibly valuable like playtesting like environments I could possibly have. So like that's why I will like take airplane rides to get those kind of tests in. But like this was a particular challenge for Bread, where initially most of my playtesting was like with competitive players, and then over the years of developing it, I started seeing more collaborative players, and I had to like make sure the game experience was still balanced for both of these like audiences. I need to make sure that a completely competitive group would fail in such a way that they could see what they did wrong, but that a purely like collaborative group would still like face some challenges and some tension and conflict on their way to like succeeding. And also need to make sure that a mostly collaborative group couldn't be completely derailed by like a single like competitive defector. They need to have mechanical tools in place for addressing like a bad actor. Like a lot of the nuance in the walls and unrested Bread was really evolved out of this balancing act of trying to make sure all these different playstyles were compatible and lent towards a compelling experience. And I couldn't have done that without like a healthy spread of playtesting. And the occasional test where I had to like request specific playstyles, I really hate to do that. It's kind of like you're poisoning your own playtest, but I've heard some people kind of accomplish this by sort of like just fibbing on the teach, sort of like saying like quietly omitting the fact that you could work together or that it's competitive or something like that. But this is outside my wheelhouse. But regardless, my point is variety of playtesting is like incredibly valuable. Especially for multi-victor games. In fact, this is kind of speculative, but I think the reason sometimes semi-cooperative games get kind of a bad rep is because I don't think they're fully accommodating these different approaches. Like sometimes I hear complaints that they don't like semi-cooperative games because somebody might realize they personally can't win, and then they'll just tank the experience for everybody else. But I think that's the case of not designing adequate tools to address like a outlier player, like somebody who's like derailing, like a what I call defector, like a single defector. There's not tools for the rest of the collaboratively playing players to address this like combative player, and then otherwise cooperative game. That's why it's like really important to address these like different play styles and be prepared and test for them. Because like in these multi-victor kind of games, you're granting the players a lot of freedom. So yeah, it's a lot to balance, but it's important and valuable. These abhorrent like off-the-rails playtests aren't really like glitches in your system. They're opportunities to grow your game, you know? Okay, so that's that. For my personal updates, I went to LFG Con for the first time ever. I think it might have been the first con of LFG Con, but it was nice. It was local, so I managed to go for like an evening to sell some vibes, and I managed to meet some of you in person, which was really sweet. I like that. Like the news makes it look like Los Angeles is like burning to the ground, but it's really not. Okay, so that's vibes. With Conviction, I hired a graphic designer to help me figure out how to make the iconography and stuff of the game a lot clearer. Something that I was doing with that design was I was constantly adding like more and more bits and flourishes to try to signal how the game was played, and apparently what I really need to do was just cut as much as I possibly could down to the bare essentials so players could focus on those essentials. I guess just like mechanics, you don't want to keep adding, you should try cutting when you can. I didn't realize that. It's only been tested a few times, but it is playing much smoother already. I still need to get more data to be sure, but I'm really liking this direction that the aesthetics are going. Unfortunately, I might have to find another artist to redo the illustrations because I might be going portrait. I think it'll be a good thing. That's it. Summer break started for my kids, so game conjuring and game making time is going to be very limited, right? But still trucking along. Yeah. That's it. See you later. Bye-bye. Happy Pride. Bye.